If you're ready for freedom from the grind, then passive income from real estate investing is the best way to get you there. If you don't know where to start or what to do next, then the Rent Roll Radio Show is the best place to get you there. Join us while we discuss the best practices, strategies, and mindset you'll need and give you actionable content to get you from where you are to where you want to be. Hey, Rent Roll Radio listeners, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Sterling Chapman, and after about 12 minutes of technical difficulties with our audio, we are here with Ingrid Duque. So, Ingrid, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Sterling. Thank you very much for the invitation.
So, Ingrid, can you tell us a little bit about your background, what you were doing before real estate, how you got into real estate, and what you're doing today?
Yeah, of course. So it all started back in 2014. I'm actually an engineer by trade. I used to work in the nuclear power field, and it was 2014, like August, and that was my first actual experience of a major layoff of my company. Yeah. Before that, it was mainly like, we've been coded to go to school, and right after school, you need to go get a corporate job. And if you have a good corporate job with a pension, 401k, then you've made it. And that was my goal to begin with, pretty much, right? So 2014 came around, and then the major layoffs, like my department got reduced by 70% in one day. In 10 minutes. So after that, I had no idea what real estate was, but I came home and I told my husband, we need to do something else. We need to have a plan B. So real estate became my plan B per se back then. And we got into it. 2014, we purchased our first property in Atlanta, Georgia. It's about 20 minutes north of Atlanta, Georgia. And I knew nothing, like Sterling, I knew nothing about real estate. I have not listened to any podcasts. I didn't know what Bigger Pockets was, like nothing. I just knew that I needed to get into real estate. It's an asset. We're not making more land. It just made sense to me at that time. So we invested everything into real estate. After that, it was a learning curve, our first property. But then I decided that banks, I was only so much leverage with my salary, right? Like I had an income of like $57,000 as an engineer. And I realized that banks are more open to lending you more money if you make more money, right? So I took that and I actually worked into a strategy of how I can increase my salary in order to become more attractive for banks. So from 2014 to 2018, I focused pretty much on doing that. In how can I increase my salary? How can I become more nice client for banks per se? In 2018, I made it to a certain salary range that banks were lending me money. And from 2018 to now, I grew from 1 unit to 60 plus units right now. And it's been insane. I left my W-2 job. I was in management and I left my W-2 job back in April of this year. And right now I'm a full-time real estate investor.
Awesome. So I love that story because it's my story. That's great. So many parts of that story hit home. And, I bet everybody called you crazy when you said, I'm going to quit being an engineer to go buy rental properties, right?
Yes. Like when I told my parents, I'm from Colombia, so we're immigrants. And I told my parents, I'm quitting my job. And my parents were like, wait, why? You have a good job. And I'm like, I know, but this is so much potential, but you have a pension. I'm like, I know, but this is a good, this being and that's the way I explained that to them. Being an employee to a good company, it's great, but your income is limited. And being an investor or entrepreneur, like there's no limit to your income. It's really dependent on you. Like if you want to keep working hard, you can keep making more money pretty much.
Yeah. So it's funny. I recall a conversation with my brother I was having like a few years after I started investing because it was very similar. Everybody got laid off and I'm like, what the hell? I need a safety net. And then it kind of like blew up from there. But I remember like I had a really good job and like you, I kept, once I started buying real estate, I'm like, well, I need more money to buy more real estate. I need more money to borrow more money. So I got a bunch of promotions. Like it made me better at work to buy real estate. So, and then I remember specifically a conversation I was having with my brother. He's like, hey, that's cool and all that you buy in the real estate, but just so you know, when I'm bragging about you to my friends, it's about your big shot job at XYZ company. It's not about, that you buy houses. And I said, well, maybe we'll change that one day. Yeah. And now it's very much flip flop. So that's an awesome story. I love hearing it. I want to dive into the houses. I want to hear about, what kind of houses you buy, that deep dive into some numbers, how you bought them, how they're cash flowing. Tell me about the first deal.
Okay, so first deal, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house siding, and it is located because I still have it in Marietta, Georgia, which is located 25 minutes north of Atlanta. And I chose that location because I was familiar with that location. I grew up close to Marietta. I knew that the schools were good. It was very up and coming. And what I liked about it, especially in Atlanta, traffic is horrible. People hate traffic. So one of my criteria is that my properties have to be located within 3 miles, no more. Less is even better, but 3 miles from a major interstate. So this property is like 0.5 miles from a major interstate. So it hit all the checks pretty much. We went and I didn't even see it. I was actually working in Pennsylvania when I bought this house. So I had an agent. I contacted an agent, like, hey, go see it. And he saw it. He took a video. I'm like, yes, let's put an offer. We put an offer. It was $2,000 over asking. So $70,000. It was $72,000. It was 2014. So houses were selling like hotcake. So I was like, I'm going to pay more. It's fine. And we bought this property. And we spent about $3,000 with our credit card to paint it in the inside. And that's where we made our first mistake, or I made my first mistake, because we were painting and cleaning. And this one person came, he saw it. He's like, I'll rent it from you. I'm like, great. And then he's like, okay, here's 3 months worth of rent up front and the deposit. I'm like, awesome. I did that. I didn't do any vetting, no checking of the income, none of that. I was like brand new newbie, like had no idea what I was doing. And he became my first eviction, actually, because after 3 months, he stopped paying rent. So a lot of learnings with this first house. Bought the house, and then again, eviction 2 months later, 3 months. And then 2 months later after that, he was out. Again, we went back, cleaned everything. And this one person came again. And we did do the whole process of income verification, rental references, and employment, all that stuff. He passed, and he's been there since 2015, actually. So all this time he's been with us, and he just renewed for another 2 years. So we're happy with that one. So that was my first experience. And when everything was going on with the eviction, I told my husband, this sucks. I should have not done this. I don't know why I got into real estate. But again, I take responsibility of that, because I went into this without knowing. It's like jumping into a swimming pool with no idea how to swim and then blaming other people because you're about to drown. So that happened to me, but I knew better. I learned a lot during that whole year. I started getting into bigger pockets, real estate meetings and meetups locally. And I started, networking more with people. And that's how I got into, hey, I need to make more money if I want to buy more real estate. Again, a lot of learning and stepping stones through the whole journey. And that's from 2014, first property, to 2018. That's where I focused on my career. Now, in 2018, I was like, I had done so much in my career, promotions, like you mentioned. I made more money. Banks were willing to give me more money on loans. And that's when I went back into the market. I'm like, okay, so I need to start looking for houses. At that time, though, 4 years had gone by. So north of Georgia, I don't know if you're familiar with that. Yes, skyrocketed. So what happened now? I was like, oh my gosh, I waited for years. Now I need to pay $200,000 in cash, because that's what the market is, right? And that's why I started noticing that on the South. So we have 285, right? In Atlanta. South is, Forest Park, College Park, Riverdale area. I started seeing properties that were $50,000. Nobody wants to move there. And then I realized, you know what? I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see. I investigated the area, the rent were $900, $1,000 at that time. So I bought a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom brick house close to Forest Park, and I bought that one for $52,000. I bought it, great. And then something interesting that occurred was it got renovated, painted, and then we put the listing online. And within the 24 hours, we had 40 applicants. It was insane. And then I started noticing, in my application, I have one question that says, what's the reason for moving? I want to know why you're moving. And I would say 85 to 90% of the people were telling me that they were living up north, and the rents were so high that they had to relocate south. And then I told my husband, we're going to start buying crazy.
All of them.
Buy all of them, yes. So that's what we did. We bought that house, and then we started buying another one. My portfolio is heavily in the South now. But the rents now are like insane. So that's how I pivoted my strategy from going from north. And I just started listening to people like, why are you moving? Why are you moving? And then as soon as I started hearing the same reason, I was like, we're going to start buying like crazy in the south. And we did. So now we have duplexes and single families in the mix.
So does it still make sense to buy in that area, or is that caught up with the north appreciation?
So it is still going up. For instance, the one that I bought for $52,000, I'm renting for $1,300 now, and it's appreciated. I think it's like $175,000 now. That one property. So appreciation is still there. It's not as fast as the properties on the north, but we are still seeing a change of how, again, people are relocating from places that have been gentrified. We're talking about a house that used to be $100,000. Now it's like $700,000 near downtown. Sure. So people need to be living somewhere. So now they're relocating south. We're still seeing that. Now, as I go through my journey, I try to pay attention to nuggets like that, what's happening with the market. And I try to not completely flip my strategy, but adapt to what the market is doing. So that's one way that I adapted. Moving south, buying as much as I could in the south. Now, with COVID, it was a little different because I did have a couple of duplexes, 2 units, properties. And then with COVID, I started realizing we are getting an influx of traveling nurses and they need to be close to hospitals. So what I started doing with those 2 units properties, I started doing midterm rental on one of them. So for 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, I'm charging like $1,800 pretty much. In Atlanta, close to like close to hospitals or clinics and stuff like that. So again, it's a matter of like pivoting slightly with your strategy to what the market is saying. So right now I do have a mix of midterm rentals and long-term rentals and short-term rentals.
Awesome. Yeah, we have, we like south of Atlanta. I have a 54 unit in Newnan.
Oh, Newnan. Yes. It's another one. Yes.
Yeah. So that's why I was at. I've every time I go visit the property, I want to like stay a while and target some of the single families around that area. Mm-hmm. That's why I was asking, do they still make sense to buy? Does it still make sense to cash flow? Because a lot of markets today are, it's getting hard, especially with the interest rate. So where we're at today, our market moves. So I got to timestamp our conversation. As of October 5th, we're in this weird environment where like the sellers haven't quite realized what's happening in the market. So they still want top dollar, but the interest rates are obnoxiously high too. So now you're really fighting a cash flow battle there, with the high prices and the high rates. So how has your acquisition strategy changed in today's market? Are you doing anything different?
So I am doing something different, and I would say I'm still looking because I have my own portfolio and then I have joint ventures with other individuals. So like I quit my job about 5 months ago now. And I'm actually focusing on this year, or for the first, second and third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, I'm focusing on stabilizing my portfolio. Now, I am a true believer, and this is my own opinion, that we need cash. Like we need to make sure that we are liquid to some extent. I do believe, like you said, that sellers are still kind of like, I think I still can get a lot of money for my property. But I think slowly I'm noticing, 5% drop in their prices and properties are staying longer on the market. I do believe opportunities are going to come. So I'm trying to become more liquid or have accessibility to credit. What I'm doing with my properties in Atlanta, the ones that I have there, I'm actually getting lines of credit on them to utilize. So was it maybe like 2-3 weeks ago? Yeah, 3 weeks ago, I got a $500,000 line of credit because I have so much equity in those properties. What I'm utilizing, I'm doing 2 things right now. I'm stabilizing my units and making sure that the rents are up to market, make sure that, tenants are happy, maintaining their properties. And then I did all of that before I got the lines of credit. So when the bank went, they would see, this house has been renovated. Now you have a 12-month lease charging $2,100 in rent. So it becomes more attractive and it helps me get more on this line of credit. So I'm utilizing that. And with this fund that I'm doing, I'm also looking into ways I can diversify my portfolio. So I am looking still into acquiring more multi-units, 10 units, 5 units, single family homes. But I'm not just sitting still. Like I'm still working to make sure that my money is working. So I'm passively investing in private equity funds that are more diversified. So So my money is not only just sitting there, I still have some money that I can utilize through line of credits. I'm not paying any interest rate because I'm not using them yet. But the ones that I am using, I'm using in private equity funds where the equity multiplier can be like 3 times, 5 times. And I still get like an IRR of 25% every year. So I'm still making money. My money is still making money for me. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to like diversify my portfolio right now.
Awesome. Lots of great stuff there. So you mentioned you're investing passively in private equity funds. I'm assuming multifamily private equity funds, so large apartment syndications.
Some, but not all of them. So I have some of those that are multifamilies, but actually there's other ones that are like oil and gas, and we're talking about as well as land development. And I'm actually looking into one that's about coffee related. So it's kind of like
the green coffee company.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Colombia, exactly. Yeah. So and people like when I tell people, they ask me, but you don't know anything about them. I'm like, well, I need to know enough. And I need to find what's important is the operator. You don't need to be the expert as an investor, passive investor. You do not need to be an expert on the deals you're investing. You need to know what questions to ask. And you need to find yourself a reputable operator. So that's how I work. And I have a group of investors that we get together, we find deals, and okay, everybody try to poke holes on this deal. What's your concern? What's my concern? And it's kind of like a meeting of the minds. And again, everybody does their own due diligence, but in a way, I'm also making sure that my money is growing passively. Because what I'm doing with my own portfolio, I call that real estate is not passive if you're actively in there.
Are you managing your own properties?
Yes, I am.
Oh, you're working your ass off then.
Yes, but not all of them, because not all of them. I do have some that are like a 34 unit that we have a joint venture on. We do have a property manager for that, but everything else I am managing my own portfolio. I call that being passive aggressive, because everything goes well until nothing goes well, and then suddenly things break. But I do have like systems in place. So it's not like every day I'm like chatting with the tenants. There's a system. They have a maintenance request. I review it. I send it to a technician or I contact a technician. So that's fine. So I'm actively doing this and actively looking to increase my personal portfolio. But my money that I have is also working for me passively, like completely passively through syndications or other private equity funds. Yes.
That's awesome. I interviewed the guys with the green coffee company a few months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I thought it sounded like a great project. I was going to invest, but I was in the middle of one of my own syndications and I had to put all my money skin in the game, alongside my investors, which is the only reason I didn't. So I'm definitely considering it going forward. What is something that you would have done differently, knowing everything you know now, if you were to start over again?
Okay. So this is going to sound like a cliche, honestly, but I would say starting to do meaningful networking. And I highlight the word meaningful because me going to an event and saying, hi, Sterling, my name is Ingrid, and that's it, that's not meaningful. Yeah. So establishing those meaningful relationships, I would say earlier in my career would have helped me grow exponentially now. I realize that now that I'm with other investors and I'm working with other groups, that those relationships, like the opportunities that I've been able to go or even review or assess would have not been possible if I had not done meaningful networking with other individuals. So now they know Ingrid, they know that I invest, they know that I have capital to invest, and we establish a relationship that I can come through with the money, and they have established a relationship that they can produce a return. So they help you grow and they'll keep you in mind when they keep growing. So I would say that would be one of my number one things is meaningful networking.
Absolutely. And what's next for you? What's next on the agenda? How are you going to level up from here?
So my goal would be to work into my own private equity fund. That's what I really want to dig into. Because when I was growing up, those opportunities, I didn't know they existed for people like me, pretty much. Like I thought that those were only possible for people that had millions and millions and millions of dollars. The more I realize is those opportunities are out there. It's just that it all depends on the circles that you move in, pretty much. And I want to provide those opportunities for other people that may not know about it. So that's what I'm heading towards. I'm still growing my real estate portfolio, but I still want to help other people grow their wealth. Both of us can grow our wealth together, pretty much.
Awesome. And when you say private equity fund, You mean a real estate private equity fund, or you want to do these oil?
No, real estate. Okay. No, I would say real estate. Yes. For that, I would definitely stay with real estate. And for oil and gas, there's other people that are smarter than me in those fields.
Sure.
Yes.
I could never wrap my head around the oil and gas stuff.
It's interesting.
I never tried that hard, but I glanced at it for a few minutes. I'm like, I'll just stick to what I know how to do.
Yeah.
So with your ambitions to go into private equity fund, would you continue what has been working well for you in the single family space, or would you think you would look at much larger multifamily projects?
I'm willing to do it. Like, I like single family homes just because of how they can rent really quickly. But right now I've also seen that I would stay between the 5 unit and about 20 units. I think that's my good point for me, staying between those lines for like multifamilies. And I've done syndications before as an LP, but I like the joint venture aspect of it. I like working with people together into a product and developing this multifamily, making it better for tenants. So I would say right now, my preference would be 5 to about 20, 25 units. I like that. Single family home, if it makes sense, I'm not going to say no. If it makes sense, I'll run the numbers and I'll buy the single family home. My focus is more like small multifamilies right now.
Awesome. And do they have a lot of small multifamilies in the area that you invest in?
There are some, but I've noticed I've done a few LOIs with my partner on those, but we're getting to a point where the sellers, they still, like you said, they still think, hey, I'm asking, 1.9 million for this. And we had one like that south of Atlanta. We ran the numbers and they said 1.9 and I ran the numbers and everything. I was like, now we're going to give you this offer. And it was less than 1.9. And they came back to us with 2.3. I'm like, okay, we did not get the point. So yeah, like they're still thinking they can push those prices. I still touch bases with the agents and the owners. Hey, I've seen that you still are online, like on the market 6 months after my LOI. No, they still want the price. Like, okay, I'll still touch bases with you. Eventually, if they've been on the market for 7 months, I mean, that has to tell you something. So
sure.
They're working on that. Yeah.
Awesome. So what advice do you have for somebody who's just getting started?
Getting started, I would say get a coach or get a mentor or join a mastermind. And the reason for that is we tend to try to save as much money as possible at the beginning because we want to do everything ourselves. You want to make sure you're the one to paint because, a painter's going to charge you $600, right? So you can do it in a week when a painter can do it in a day. So I would say, and that happened to me too at the beginning, I was thinking, this is so much money for a mastermind, there's so much money for a coach. But what you don't realize is the value that brings. If you choose the right mastermind or the right coach, they're going to save you time and going to help you prevent doing mistakes. If they can help you not do 20 mistakes, right there, it paid off. Honestly, They also have a network of people that you can talk to. So I would say instead of focusing on saving a penny, focus on how you can make $1. How can I utilize this, $2,000 mastermind? How can I make my money's worth or take my money's worth out of it? I would say that's the mistake that I made. I thought, that was too expensive and I was not going to benefit from it. But now that I do have a mentor, I do see, and I've joined masterminds, I do see that, okay, so yes, it's this much money, but because of this much money, I'm going to grow my net worth this much. Yeah. It's totally worth it. And that's why people get stuck.
I used to be real anti-guru. And after interviewing so many successful investors, I've just seen so many across my table. I'm like, what'd you do? And I'm like, well, I gave Joe Fairless $25,000 and he taught me how to do this. Or I gave blah, 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 $50,000 and he taught me how to do this. And after just hearing that and seeing those success stories over and over and over, for me, it wasn't an option because I didn't have any money when I started. And like by the time I had money, I knew what I was doing. You know what I mean? So I wish, you know what I mean? I like the idea. I like the concept. I've seen so many people succeed from that and succeed a lot faster and just blow way by me in a much shorter period of time because of that. But it's not an option for everybody, when
that's correct. And something else that you need to think about is it all depends on where you are with your journey. Like you don't need to start up front paying $30,000 for like a multi-family syndication. Like that's a lot of money. But there are gonna be other people that you may have to pay them, $100 for an hour. Make sure that you're very prepared for that hour and you have your questions in place. And maybe you don't drink coffee or go to Starbucks for like 2-3 weeks, right? Save the money, pay someone that has been very successful or has been doing what you want to be doing, and ask the questions right away. But hey, I'm trying to do, I don't know, in this case, like in my case, line of credits. What do I need in order to be prepared for that? And okay, XYZ, this is what you need to do. Here's the list. Here are the banks you need to talk to, so many banks. These are the questions you need to ask. All of this. Something that, for instance, took me about 2-3 months, 4 months of constantly talking to people. If you ask the right questions, now you have like an outline of what to do, what not to do. So, and then as you evolve in your career, then you're going to change mentors. Like maybe no longer, you don't want to do lines of credit, but you don't want to do, maybe now you want to do duplexes. Then as you start making money, then your goals and what you need is going to change. And at that point, you can maybe get a better mentor or like a different mentor for a different goal in a different mastermind. So you don't have to start off with paying thousands of dollars. Just maybe an hour here, an hour there, strategize, make sure, hey, I'm going to spend $100 on this person, whatever the number is. And it's going to give me an outline that can take me 2-3 months in the future. So
Awesome.
Evolve as you go through your journey.
So I got a quick question. What is your buying criteria today for a single family house? Like, what are you looking to be all in for? What percentage of ARV are you looking to be all in for? How does it need a cash flow? Like, how do you decide whether or not you want to buy a house these days?
So right now, when I see single family homes, I need to make sure that I have a return of investment, an ROI of at least minimum 12 to 15%.
So you're putting money down and you're leaving it in the deal. You're buying.
I'm putting money, yes, because what I'm doing right now, I'm using my lines of credit. I do have cash, but I have cash working on other areas. So I'm using my lines of credit. So if I'm going to do a house right now, this moment, I need to make sure that it satisfies the interest rate that I'm paying on my line of credit, and it gives me an extra more. So I take that 10, 12% that is, whatever my 12 to 15%, that's what I said. So I take that into my calculations. Now I'm able to pay cash because still cash is king still today when it's like single family homes. So I pay cash, I do the renovation, everything. And then I look into refinancing. And the refinance, I already did the math with 12 to 15%, right? So the refinance, depending on the rates, I think the latest one that someone quoted me was like 7.5, closer to 7.5%. So it's still high, but my numbers work with 12 to 15%. So 7.5%, I'm still making money. It still satisfy my numbers. So I can do a refinance. I don't refinance everything out of the house. I refinance the amount that I need to do to pay off my line of credit. That way I still have equity in the house I can build on it. And then I can get another line of credit on this property pretty much.
So early on I got greedy and I refinanced everything out. So when I first started buying houses, fixing them up and refinancing them, I would like, oh, you'll give me 80%? Well, how much do you want? 80%.
80%, yes.
And then I got down the road and I go, well, those aren't cash flowing very well.
Exactly, yes.
Maybe
so
I should have done 65,
65, 60. So I do enough to pay off my line of credit. I pay it off and I leave the rest in equity because otherwise they're going to be paying like a $2,000 mortgage in a $2,200 rent. I'm only going to cash flow $200 of that. So I only make sure that I take out whatever my line of credit is.
That's awesome. So real quick, I want to hop to our radio round to let our listeners get to know you a little bit better. It's just 3 quick questions. So the first one is, what's your favorite book?
My favorite book, I would say, let me see. Oh, I have, what is it? How to make friends, how to win friends and
influence people.
Yes, by Dale Carnegie. Yes. Yeah. I like that one because we are in the relationship business.
Yes.
And it helps a lot. I love the book. And there's another book that it's not really real estate, but it talks about the principles of empowering leadership. And that's if you're building your own team, especially if you're growing your company, you're going to build your own team. You want to make sure that you have value people as leaders in your team. And this one is Turn This Ship Around by David Marquette. And it talks about how leaders can develop leaders to run their own companies, pretty much. So if I want to be off hands with my company, I want to make sure that I hire a good leader that can lead the team. That way I'm not the one leading all the time. So that one's a good book that I liked.
That is definitely something I need to pick up. As far as Win Friends and Influence People, that's always been one of my favorites. It's like my starter pack. Like I always say, like the 3 books I'm going to have my kids read in high school are How to Win Friends and Influence People, Think and Grow Rich, and Rich Dad Poor Dad. You know, like it's a base starter level,
a good base foundation. Definitely.
And I apologize because I didn't give you a heads up. I usually give guests a heads up. But what's your favorite quote? Do you have a favorite quote that you like?
I do like and I think this highlights the whole having valued network, like meaningful networking. And it's this quote from Isaac Newton that says, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants."
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if someone that is very successful tells you that they made it by themselves, they're lying. They're full of crap, honestly. It's all about relationships and networking. And I think that's very true. Yeah. Yeah,
that's awesome. So what's your favorite thing to do when you're not working?
When I'm not working, I love going hiking. I like going hiking in, trails. We've gone with my husband, and we have a dog, actually. She's an Australian Shepherd Poodle mix, so she's very active. And she loves going on hikes with us. So camping, hiking, we love doing that. We love traveling as well. So that's what I do when I'm not focused on my business.
Awesome. Now, how can our listeners learn about you and get in touch with you and follow you?
So I do have my own personal website, Ingrid Duque .com, pretty much, www.ingrid, 2 Ds at the end, and Duque for my last name.com. And then in Instagram, I'm pretty active. I'm more active now than I was before. And that's going to be at engineer.on.fire. I created that account when I was an engineer back then. So Engineer on Fire. Yes.
Awesome. You can change the name. I did that.
I've been thinking about it because I'll get some ideas and I'm like, would that really have an impact? That's what I've been like debating. So I'm still thinking. What was yours before? What is it?
So I changed mine. I started, I change my mind all the time about the social media stuff and the branding stuff. Cause I have like a plethora of things that I like juggle. Right. So I've got like my personal brand, like Sterling Chapman. Right. And then I've got the Rent Roll Radio show. So like when I first started Instagram, it was like Rent Roll Radio. And then I started a personal one for Sterling Chapman. And then on Facebook, I had like Sterling Chapman, and then I had like a Rent Roll Radio page. And then I had Crestwood Capital, which is my syndication business. And I was like, and then I had another page. And then I also flip houses, and I have a bunch of rental properties and stuff. So I'm like putting out content like that. And where to put the content and how to manage all the different accounts drove me crazy. And so I ended up closing the personal, and I just have one Instagram, and it's just my name, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now I still have the 2 Facebook pages, but it's a work in progress. I change it all the time. I can't ever decide, I go through phases where I'm like, well, I really want to lean on the podcast. I'm gonna call everything the Rent Roll Radio show. And then I'm like, well, no, I really want to do all my branding through Crestwood Capital, because that's the end result is raising capital to buy these apartment complexes. And then I kind of get through these like phases where I'm like, no, I mean, if I own my name, you know what I mean? Like I could just, if I could just have people associate Sterling Chapman with all the real estate stuff. So I don't know. I probably need an advisor. I probably need to like pay some
like a marketing.
I have a marketing, like an in-house marketing guy who does all my stuff, but he's not like an advisor, like put together like a plan. Like this is how you need to attack the market, So I don't know. You're asking the wrong person.
Still a work in progress for me too. I feel like I need to hire like a coach, like a social media marketing coach or something.
Well, they got them on Instagram. I get messaged by about 50 a day. Now, how legit they are, I have no idea.
I don't know. Yes. Yeah.
Well, Ingrid, I really enjoyed chatting with you today. It was great getting to know you. It sounds like you're killing it over in Atlanta, and I'm glad we were able to connect, and I look forward to keeping up with you on your journey.
Awesome. Thanks for the invite, Sterling.
This episode was brought to you by Crestworth Capital. If you're a busy professional and ready to make passive income from real estate investing, then go to crestworthcapital.com where you'll be able to download a free copy of our ebook to help you get started today. Until next week, happy investing.